The Collective Whisper Podcast with Simon King. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome Martina Flaherty from Loughrea, who is with us here today. Martina is a singing teacher, a sound and voice therapist and facilitator, a professional singer-songwriter and musician, and also a radio presenter on Loughrea Community Radio. Welcome to the show, Martina.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you for having me. It's a lovely introduction.
It's quite a mouthful. You're a very busy woman.
I am. I'm sort of jack of all trades, maybe a master of none. I don't know. I'm always busy. I suppose that, even during lockdown, I've done so many courses just online. There's been so many things online. And I just love learning, I suppose, that's it. Yeah.
Good. I mean, I think those are great. Nowadays with the internet and courses online, you see every so often they're trying to entice you into coming into their stable of students and they give you free courses. I think that's great. If you can get a 4-week course free, it's brilliant, no?
Yeah. There's great self-growth ones, or even I done one on how to talk to plants back in how to talk to plants. So I'm going around talking to all my plants now, which is great,
Not to mention the drug, but there's been a lot of fellas and girls talking to plants over the years and thanking them for the great night they had.
Yeah, exactly. And they're talking back.
They're talking back. That's the thing. So right now, how are you? How is everything going, with the lockdown, and are you coping with this?
Yeah, I mean, it's been, I suppose there's positives and negatives for everybody. I mean, definitely back in March, as I say, I'm somebody who's always busy and sometimes too busy. I tend to not, I'm not a morning person, terrible to get me out of the bed. But once I'm up, then I don't stop and I don't go to bed till all hours. But
you're a night owl.
Oh, completely, like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd still be up at sort of 9:30, 10 o'clock. But, the morning is, I'd love to be just one of those early morning persons, but I'm not. I'm most creative later at night. That's just the way it goes, I get alert then. But, yeah, so, but it was great to kind of get off the wheel a little bit. Now, I was able to do, a small little bit online for a while, but, and it didn't work. It didn't work for a lot of people then. But, it was great. So it was great to get that time. The sun was out and it was lovely.
I think for a lot of people, even though they've probably had too much time off the wheel, as you say, it's kind of good in a way to get out of the normal routine because it makes you reevaluate stuff. Because maybe, for example, you're playing with the band and maybe you're playing certain venues and you're sick of it and you want to do something different. Or, as a lot of musicians, they're playing cover gigs and, doing the same old songs. And maybe they want to get back into doing original music. And sometimes this kind of it's like a little kickstart. Maybe you'll say, I want to take this time and reinvest in myself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people did that. And, but, definitely it was great. And I reevaluated even myself. I started working on an online healing voice course. So I thought I might have it finished by Christmas, but I'd say it'll be January now. Anyway, but look, I'm glad I wouldn't have done that if, anyway. So all those things were good. I think as time has gone on, it definitely has been challenging because, sure, we were all handed out, a little bit of social welfare, back in March, but it was like good cop, bad cop. Then it sort of got, then it got very measly, and you kind of tried, and you tried to go back to work in September, and then all of a sudden, you thought you were on the pig's back to work, and then you weren't again, and then you realised it was very measly. But anyway, look, we are where we are, and on a negative, I hate the, I think it's capitalism and it's dictatorship, and there's all those negative things. On the positive, I do think there's a spiritual element to it, and I think people needed this, and I think sometimes we have to see things and experience things to appreciate life, and to appreciate I suppose our freedom, and all that sort of thing, so there's a spiritual element, and yeah, so just I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be here, grateful to have my lovely daughter, and yeah, that's that's it.
When you look at the timeline of everything, for some people it probably suits them, but for other people it doesn't, because they're thinking it's too long, it's taken, this lockdown is going on forever. But for other people, they're thinking, no, I've this has been a good time, I've been able to learn some stuff, practice some stuff, spring clean the house a million times. So it all depends on the type of person you are, doesn't it?
Exactly, and I suppose it depends too. I mean, for definitely for young people, it's been I've my heart has sort of bled for young people a little bit. Because I think when you're younger, being being with people and being with your friends. I did a workshop there in Salt Hill now about a month ago, I'd say. It was just before the second lockdown came there, and what I found from a lot of the teenagers there was that school was the only thing that was keeping them going. Really, it was their seeing their friends, because they really missed that friendship and just being out and about. Your hormones are raging, you want, girls hug each other all the time, and yeah, you just need to be with your friends. And people have been awful hard on young people, a lot of negative stuff going up on Facebook and stuff, and you're kind of going, guys, do you remember when you were young, or have you totally forgotten? And also older people. I felt really, I felt it for older people, because they really feel that they don't have as much time, and they miss their families and all that sort of thing. So on those, I mean, I can sit in my house forever, you know what I mean? I'll find amusement. I'm grand. But I suppose they're the most two fractions of society that we really need to look out for, and really be there for, is our younger people and our older people.
Yeah, and I think what it is, like when you said there, a lot of people are looking at young people and they're thinking, oh my God, what are they up to? What are they doing? But we were the same ourselves. And it's very hard to look back now and see that we were that way. But it's true, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the only memory I have of kind of being locked up was, I remember when I was about 16, and I remember there was a big snow. And we were locked into our house because we lived in a little avenue. Sounds very fancy and posh, but we were the only house in there, but we were snowed under anyway, and we couldn't. I remember for Christmas, it must have been around Christmas, because I remember for Christmas Day, myself and my mum and dad and my brother and sister, or my sister actually, because my brother was married, we were all walking out to his house to have dinner. But we were actually cracking after a week, because we couldn't go out, and you couldn't. It was Christmas and everybody was out, and you were like, oh, I want to go to Ballymac at the time, or wherever we were, up to the Medicourt in Loughrea and all the places, to socialise. But it was a week that I hadn't seen my friends, and of course then you wouldn't have phone and stuff. But I remember the kind of darkness of it. I can remember feeling quite down. So that was a week when I was that age. So here are kids doing,
No, and a week seemed like an eternity then, but now, because people can connect and stay in touch, like, thank God for the internet, because if we didn't have it, this lockdown would have been hell.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, so there's lots of blessings too, but
Let's go back to your early life in Loughrea. So you were born, like, were you always in the town, or did you live outside the town? Always the same place?
no, I'm a country girl. I actually, I'm from a little place called Ballymaccord, they used to call it years ago. There used to be a dance hall there, and they'd advertise it on the radio as Ballymaccord. But yeah, and I went to school in Mount Bellew actually. Yeah, so so it's about a half an hour, I suppose, from Loughrea. But in probably in my early late 20s, maybe, I started working in Loughrea in a barber shop, and that I trained as a hairdresser, and then I was playing music and gigging. So, going off to do some, being in the morning and maybe 8:30 to do some ladies' perm just was kind of a bit too hard. Because I'd be kind of in the bar from like till 4 o'clock in the morning. But you'd have fierce, cranky. I was working in Barry's in Galway, I remember at the time. But you'd have a few cranky women as well that'd be, Anyway, I kind of went, Jesus, with my gigging, because I was gigging probably, 4 or 5 nights a week too, So I decided to go for something a little bit easier. So one night in Kiri's bar here, actually, there was a lovely man called, he had a barber shop here in the town called Shay. And he said to me, Martina, I'm really looking for somebody to work because his ex-partner was sick at the time. So I said, sure, Jesus, I'll give it a try. So that was it. So I started working there, and he said, as long as you're in before 11 o'clock in the morning. So that literally was it. He bought, I think I stayed drinking brandy with him at the bar that night till 4 o'clock. And I started the next morning. He said, as long as you're in before 11. But once you're in, you're working. And that was it. He was so nice to me. As long as I was in before 11. But that was it. You worked. You were on your feet from 11 until 7 that even, maybe straight through sometimes.
That's a real night owl schedule, isn't it? Coming in, like waking up maybe 10:30 and saying, geez, I better get to work. I have to be there before 11.
Yeah. So that was it. He was so good to me. And so that's where I spent, and I loved it. I loved it there. So that's where I spent a good few years then,
Would you say that, because you were going to school in Montbellew, did you socialise as a teenager more in Loughrea or Montbellew?
Probably more in Loughrea, because we would have been, I suppose all my friends down Montbellew side would have gone to Glenamaddy or places like that to go out. Whereas I always went, to the Medacourt or to, up this direction, because we were, I suppose, were we nearer? Yeah, I suppose we would be. And a lot of my friends would have gone to UN school or would have gone to Loughrea. So we always kind of tended to just navigate this way.
Okay. And what was Loughrea like that time? Like, do you find that the town has changed a lot?
It was great for live music. I suppose everything changed, it was just different times. And, a lot of the changes were good too. But definitely the bars would be packed, smoking. The smoke, you wouldn't see yourself. And I did it myself. I used to, my friend actually has a little piano keyboard, and she says in memory of me, I'd have the guitar, I'd have the guitar here, the cigarette stuck in it, and we were stuck in a little corner, and she was after getting a lovely new keyboard, and sure, with me having the fag stuck here, obviously the ash dripped down on one of the keys, and at the end of the night, she goes, and she went, look, your bloody cigarette has just burned a hole in my new keyboard. What could I say? Yes, I said, you'll never forget me. There you go. But anyway, yeah.
And Martina, were your parents originally from Loughrea, or where were they from?
No, my mum was. They were low. My father came, I suppose, originally from Ballydlunan.
Close to me.
Yeah. So yeah, close to you. Back in Loughrea. Near, Ballashgeha was the name of the place. It's near Monavea, where they were born. But when he was in his late teens, all the family moved back. The Land Commission were giving out land that time, and there was a big family of them, and I suppose they were living in a small little house back there. So they moved back to Ballinaccord then. So I still had, like my father and my uncle had the Copper Beach one time in Turlough. So they had that bar. So we would spend every weekend over there. So.
And your mum, was your mum from Loughrea, or where was she from?
No, mum was local. Yeah, mum was from Gurchy and Ballinaccord. So.
Okay. Yeah. That tends to be the case sometimes, that the men follow the women to their hometown, doesn't it?
They do. That was it.
Are your parents alive, or what's the situation?
No, my father passed away. God, Rihanna's 21 now, so he passed away when she was about 4. And my mum is still alive. She's great. She's about 85 or 86 now, and she's still able to to drive and all of that. And she lives down there. My brother lives beside her, and yeah, she's great.
So she's going great.
She's going great. Yeah, she should be complaining, but I just say to her, "Ma'am, you're healthier than me," and she comes to me sometimes at the weekends as well. And
was this time during the COVID thing, was it hard on her?
It was hard on her, and I really saw her go down, a bit. And my aunt passed away. Now she was a good age as well. She was in her 90s, but she was very healthy, and had just got into hospital for respite. But she died. She died in there over lockdown. So I felt really, I suppose we all felt really bad about that because we never got to. She had early dementia a little bit as well, so she didn't understand the whole mask thing. She thought we were, well, not me, because she had been in Dublin, and she thought her daughter was playing a game with her. She used to say, "Stop fooling around," when she'd be waving at the window with the mask, Yeah, and she just didn't understand. And I felt so bad that she, that was her last few days. But look, she had a great, well, not, I wouldn't say a great life, but she was a good, strong woman. And, she'd a fairly all right life, up until that. So
When you were growing up in Loughrea, what kind of hobbies and did you have, and how did you keep yourself entertained? Was it always music, or did you do sport or other stuff?
no, terrible at sport, always music. Always music. That was it. Even when my parents would go to school and the teacher would say, "Martina's just at the back. All you can see in her copy is," I'd be writing, "The Rolling Stones, The Doors, The Beatles, Joni Mitchell, Bob Dylan." I used to have all this art drew on the back of the copy, and they're like, "And where's your homework?" And I was like, "Oh God, I just want," and there was no music in school. I went to, there was no music, and I was just, that's all I wanted to do. So my first, when I left school, my first job, I bought I bought a little Spanish guitar, an acoustic guitar in Fletcher's in Ballinasloe, actually. And a friend of mine had been going out with the guy, and he gave her a book. Oh no, actually before that, he had gave her a guitar, and I got the mumps, I think, when I was in my leaving cert. So yeah. So I said, great opportunity, I'll sit home here and learn a few chords. So I did. And then I bought a guitar myself with my first
I always thought the Mumps would have been a great name for a band.
yeah, wouldn't it?
Nobody was ever brave enough to say, "I'm the lead singer in the Mumps."
It's not too late. Let's start a band.
We'll have a super group. Everybody's infected. So the thing is, in like, you worked in the hairdressers, but did you ever do any other part-time jobs in and around the town that you hated or that you loved, maybe?
What did I? Well, I stayed there. Now I stayed I stayed here, I think, until Rihanna was born, and it's gas that I'd done so much. I seem to have stayed at the same place for a long time. As in, I was happy out. In fairness, it wasn't a very healthy life, but there you go. You were that age, so it was literally, it was being in the barber shop every day, probably having a sausage roll at around 4 o'clock, heading off, coming out of there at 7, hopping in, getting a bag of crisps and maybe a ham sandwich, and throw the crisps into it and a can of Coke, and off you go to the gig down to Limerick or to Innis or something, do the gig, come back home, off to Sadler's or somewhere, and stay copious amounts of alcohol, and then back into work again the next day. You could do all that sort of stuff, but
it was a happy routine, wasn't it? I mean, people enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly. But I suppose until you stop and you kind of go, "What am I doing with my life?" And a child certainly. Is a great one for that, because it knocks you.
Tell us about Rihanna. She's 21 now, is she?
She's 21 now. Yeah, she's 21 this year. So she's doing music in UI, and she did a year in Cork as well, and then took a year out. So she's in third year now. So,
and what kind of music is she? Is it more like contemporary, classical? What type is she doing?
Well, she's going to be, I suppose, a music teacher after all of this. They do a little bit of everything, and this year really she's doing Irish as well. She should have gone to the Gaeltacht for this semester, and then in January she would have been going maybe to Holland, over to a music college there to do kind of an Erasmus there. But of course she was very disappointed that all of that didn't happen. So they're just working online now.
She's doing it. She's doing an Erasmus from home.
Yeah, Erasmus from home. That's it.
With Mammy,
Yeah,
it's
with
the new
Mammy.
Mammy Erasmus.
Yeah, exactly. So she's a bit disappointed about that, but you're looking, this is, I said, you have years for traveling and doing all of these things, but here, this is where we are. But yeah.
This year has been a bit of a break for a lot of people, but of course it's been something that's hijacked a lot of people's careers and their investments in whatever they were doing. And for students like Rhiannon, the thing is, they'll look back and they go, oh, I was supposed to go to Holland that year and it interrupted my plans. But I mean, what can we do? We just have to move on, no?
That's it. That's what I said. One day she was here and I said, it's good. Feel the bad. You got to feel bad and sit with it and let it go through you. It's only part of life, but there will be lots of time again. And I guess these are things, when you think that, down through the years we've been refugees and tend to think they had, if you think of those and they had lovely homes and careers and, maybe now they're living in a refugee camp and all of their hopes and dreams are gone. So at least we have there's lots of great things that we have. So we got to look at the good and the positive and all of that. We're very lucky.
Does she play a few instruments or is it more singing? What's her thing?
She sings, plays piano, and plays ukulele and guitar. But
very nice.
But yeah, she's not into the performance side of it though. She was when she was younger because we did some performing together and it looked like, I said, me and you will take over the world.
Yeah. Yes.
But no.
It's like I always think those moments, when you have either like groups that are couples or family groups, when they go on talent shows and that stuff. And then, Simon Cowell or whoever says, yeah, maybe the mammy can sit this one out for a minute. And the mother's like, what do you mean? We're a team. And the daughter says, just for a minute, ma'am, let's just see what happens.
Yeah. Well, definitely Rihanna was the one, like she had such an amazing voice, and she still does, but when she was younger, I don't know, there's a little video on YouTube, you can watch it sometime if you get a chance, but she held a note for like, a full minute. But anyway, we... so we did. I used to be writing songs at the time, so we wrote. I had a lot of songs written, and we decided to enter that Irish Fashion Blood, and we won that. That was back in 2011, and Rihanna was 11, I think, at the time. And the song was her. When she sang it, I was like, oh my God, it's like so your song. So I did a harmony to it. But it was funny because we'd be fighting, like the two of us, like we're kind of like sisters, but they'd be talking to us afterwards and we'd be there like, and Rihanna going, you got that wrong, that's not the line.
Yeah.
Funny story about the final, actually. We were, the day we went up to the final, I wasn't a great sleeper. I'm still, I suppose sleeping isn't my... But it depends. Yeah, it depends. I'm just a bit of a night owl. But I wasn't sleeping good at all at the time. So I decided I wanted to be fresh for that day, to be having me head about me. So I stayed at a friend of mine's house that night and she was coming up because we had to be up in the RT studios at, I don't know, 8:30 in the morning or something. So I decided I'd get some sleeping pills. So I went to the doctor, got some sleeping pills, and that was it. I was in bed by probably 12:30 or something, or 12:30, 1, and we had to get up maybe at 5:30, 6. So I took the sleeping pill, and off I went to sleep for what I thought was, that I'd been asleep for a long time. But I got up to the toilet, and I looked at the phone, and I was full sure it said 2:30, and I was like, oh God, it's only 2:30. And I tried to go back to sleep. I couldn't go back to sleep. So I said, you know what, I'll take another one. So I'll sleep. So I just had it swallowed and the water gone down when I heard my door open, and it was my friend, and she went, "Oh, you're awake." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm just going back to sleep." And she went, "Oh, it's 5:30, you know." And I was like, "It's 5:30." I said, "I just took another sleeping pill." I said, "It's not, are you sure it's not half two?" And she went, "No, look at your phone, it's 5:30, it's time to get up." And I was like, right, okay. So I started, literally, Rihanna was on the way to Dublin. They got me, I don't drink coffee, but they got me coffee, and she was literally beside me going, "Mammy, wake up, wake up." I've no memory of the drive to Dublin, no memory of it at all. Now, it wasn't that I was...
You were lucky you had a few hours. Imagine if you were doing that in Galway and you only had like half an hour.
Yeah.
You were lucky at a few hours to have a bit of a sleep, maybe.
Yeah. Well, no, we arrived in the studio and I'm there absolutely zombified here, trying to keep my eyes open. And I'd be getting the song wrong. Then Rihanna would go, "That's not it. That's not it." And the nerve, I swear, the nerves that night going out to perform it, because I was literally, shitless that I wouldn't remember it because my brain was literally fried. So we won it. So that was like...
That's brilliant. And they were probably saying, "Isn't it brilliant? They won it," and the mother was pissed on stage.
Exactly. She went off a tree. So yeah, you can look at that video and see the stoned mother.
have to look at it. And it's funny because when you have a bit of insight and you're looking at the video, it's probably going to be funnier.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned there in your copybook, in your notebook, you had all the bands and Rolling Stones and all that. What was the music you were into at that time as a teenager? What was the first band you thought, "I love this band"?
I think it was Van Morrison, really. I got that album, Van Morrison and the Street Choir, and Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell, all these sort of people, because I think I was brought up on traditional, really, and country music, and then all of a sudden I was hearing this stuff, and it just... Tom Waits, so it was all these. It was like Tom Waits, America, Van Morrison, Joni Mitchell, Bob Dylan, Neil Young, all these, Lindisfarne.
Lindisfarne, wow. And it's funny when you mentioned there about the parents playing the country music, because I used to always think when I was younger, you'd be in the car and your parents would have the country music station on or the country music tapes, and I used to be thinking, did they always listen to this? And now when I'm, when I've with my own kids and I could be playing Jeff Buckley 1 minute, Metallica the next minute, Bob Dylan the next minute. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, I don't remember my parents having as open a mind towards music, because, they had, but it seems like once you reach a certain age, everybody starts evolving into country music listeners. Yeah. But now it's a little bit different, isn't it?
Yeah.
People listen to all sorts now. Thank God.
Thank God. Yeah, but not that I'm a country. I suppose Irish country music is to be awful, but now you try and find. I suppose a lot of the country music is a bit better, but yeah, I suppose really. Do you know the probably the first band that really changed me, funnily enough, was ABBA, because I used to go down to my aunt lived in Kerry. And when I was probably about 13 or 14, as I say, coming from trad and country music, my older cousin was into ABBA, and she had the album, I remember, Arrival, and I remember she used to play it on a record player, and I just thought they were, it was amazing, So I really got into ABBA. I had all their albums, and so that was my first, I suppose, at 14, 15, and then, as time went on, and I still think ABBA were great. They were really good, nice, I suppose, feel-good music, and just brings you back to a time,
Yeah, and they bridged that gap because, if you look at bands like Bucks Fizz, who won the Eurovision for England, they never really had a big following. They were a bit of a cliche and a bit, tacky. But ABBA, even though, they were that kind of vein, they still had a huge following around the world.
Yeah, and they were, I suppose, musically, they were so talented, and I used to love Agnetha's voice. I just thought she had the most, and I still do. Her voice, I heard her doing something actually, maybe there 2 or 3 years ago, and her voice is still amazing. Even though she went and gave up music and everything for a long time, but yeah, so music still has the voice, yeah. So
when you did start playing, what was your first gig or your first band, or did you play solo? What did you do?
God, the first gig was myself, and I remember doing there was a Live at 3 competition on. Do you remember Live at 3? Derek Davis.
Yeah, I do, with Derek and Thelma Mansfield.
Thelma Mansfield. There was a competition on that, and I remember myself and my friend. I wrote a song, and we entered it, and we had to go up to Monasterevin, I think, to a hotel, and the final was there, and. My father was funny on the night. It was a guy from Roscommon that won it, and I came second. But my father was going around in the night, Martina should have won. Martina should have won it. No, I was there slapping him. I said, Dad, stop it. And he was, she should have won it. She should have won it. It was terrible.
It's fun when you say there with Derek Davis. Every time I think of Derek Davis, I think of Big Tom.
Yeah, exactly.
They were like twins. Weren't they? Did you meet Derek Davis and Thelma Mansfield?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so we were on the RTE, and then they were at the show as well, and they were lovely, really nice. But yeah, so that kind of got. I think after that show. Myself and my friend said, let's go and do some gigs. So we went down to Glenamaddy. We went down to Glenamaddy where you'd go on those days to buy your gear, and
down to Joe O'Neill's.
And a guy, Mike Lawless, a friend of mine here in Loughrea from the band The Crusaders at the time, he came with us and helped us pick out gear. And that was it. Our first gig was in a bar in Ballinasloe that Jerry McInerney, the hurler, had opened. And I remember we had 10 songs, I think, between us, but the microphones were screeching and everything. We couldn't. We were there. Jesus, what's happening here? It was an absolute disaster,
But they are. The first gigs are always like that, and that's the fun.
That's the fun. So we kept repeating the 10 songs we had, and we couldn't believe he gave us another gig, and he went, no, you were great. Now you'd get there. And he started giving us every Sunday evening, for the summer. And then Mike Keary here in Loughrea gave us every Friday night, and that was it. And we soon started not blowing our trumpet, but we did start packing the place, because we were there. There was only two. There was Karma Dempsey at the time. There was us, Martina and Sinead, we were called, and then there was the Tracy sisters. So we were the only girls, really, I think, around Galway that were playing music, So that was it. So we started packing the place on a Friday night, and sure, we'd have the wages drank by the time we'd finish.
You've been involved with so many bands over the years and musicians in and around Galway. Was it a case of that you'd kind of meet people by standing in with bands or by being in bands? How did you meet a lot of people over the years?
You just meet them in the circuit, I suppose. I met, so who was I with in Galway? Well, earlier on I was with the Lazy Blues band, and that was I was going out with Luis Gutierrez or Luis Armada. He was kind of more known in Galway. He was
yeah.
Did you know Luis?
I did. Actually, the funny thing about Luis, I met Luis when he arrived in Galway.
Stop,
Yeah, because I'll tell you how that was, because I was actually thinking about him every so often I think about him, because I met him, that was maybe like, I don't know, was it 96 or 97? And I was busking in Galway for like 2 or 3 years there. And so always after busking, I meet like other musicians, Bernard Naughton, they'd be playing gigs and I was playing in the street. But we'd meet up in Javas and I got to know people. And I remember Luis came into Javas that night. And I don't think he was actually even playing with anybody. I think they were literally only in the city, like him and his sister. His sister was a very pretty girl. And I think I saw the sister first, to be honest,
Yeah, he actually,
so,
yeah. Go on.
Yeah, but I remember that was, and I had my guitar, because what would happen is I'd go into Javas with my guitar, and all the other musicians wouldn't have their gear with them because they'd be in the pub or the car. So some people, we'd have a bit of a jam upstairs. But I remember Luis and his sister, and I forgot about him then. I don't know if he stayed in Galway or he went back for a few months, but I remember meeting him a few years later, then playing with some bands, and he was a lovely fella.
Yeah, he was such a dude. Yeah, he actually worked in Javas. Anuska, his sister, ended
That's
up
right.
working there as well. But then she went to Kilkenny. She met a guy from Kilkenny, and she still lives there now. Actually, she got married and has kids. But she went, I think Javas opened another restaurant up there, and that's how she ended up going up there. But yeah, Luis, he joined Charis then, and they were together for years. So that's it. So through the Lazy Blues Band, I think I was a fan of Charis and used to go and see them. And then and we entered. So he's really, I have to give him sort of credit for a lot of things that happened in my life, because we started going out together, and he was the big love of my life, I have to say. So we started a little side band called the Lazy Blues Band. Mark Sullivan was in it, and Tom Portman, and so that was it. And then I, often do maybe some harmony with Charis if they were gigging places. But the reason I got into being a singing teacher was Luis used to play in a band with Andres Martorell, who was from South America, from Uruguay, and they had a little tango group that used to play in Massimo's on a Wednesday, I think. Was it Wednesday or Thursday? And Luis used to also do sound in the Roisin Dove, and I played in another band with a group of women, and we were called, Bangkoks at the time.
Yeah. I think I remember that name.
Bangkoks, yeah.
My God.
Yeah. The Bangkoks, yeah, because it's funny, we ended up getting a guy playing guitar with us, actually, because we didn't have enough sort of serious work for, there wasn't that many girl guitar players around. Now, we did have a girl for a while, but funny.
So the Bangkoks were like, "Are you a eunuch? You can only come in if you're a eunuch."
Yeah. Well, our guitar player, as it turns out, had the best hair in the band. He had long curly hair, so he was probably the prettiest in the band. All the rest, when I look back, we were like, it was like, what's going on, lads, with the haircuts? We were definitely, I don't know, but I remember one time actually that he was threw out of his apartment, or his the house he lived in, and I don't know, because they had a party or something, and he couldn't afford his conditioner. So the drummer, Thule, bought him Pantene conditioner for his hair. That's how much of a girl he was, I suppose. So he was probably.
Well, that reminds me of a story. Once, I remember I used to have like long hair. It's hard when I look at me now with less hair, but I used to have long hair down to my shoulders, and it was undercut, like the sides.
The undercut, yeah.
Because when I had it long, it was too bushy. I was like Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon with this big bouffant. And so I undercut it. And I remember once the girl I was going out at the time, she said, "We should try ironing your hair, straightening it." And so we tried it, like the brown paper on the ironing board and the hair and all that. So I did that. And I remember I was walking down Shop Street. And at that time, I think I was still busking, and I used to play a bit with Brendan O'Gorman in Galway, And so Brendan, I saw him walking up the street towards me, and because my hair felt like, I felt like a woman with my hair, and it was so straight and shiny, and I was afraid to move it in case it'd go curly again, or I'd upset it. And as I walked past him, he stopped and he did a double take, and he went, "Jesus," he said, "I thought you were some fine bird there for a minute." I said, "No, it's only me, don't worry."
I know, it's gas. And I was saying there, that he was such a girl, but it wasn't that he was such a girl. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that I suppose that when you look, he probably was considering we were called the band Cox and there was no men in the band, he certainly fitted in because he was probably more, he was more in touch with his feminine side probably than maybe the rest of us were,
So you were playing with Luis, and at that time with the Lazy Blues band, you were playing with other bands as well too, and kind of gigging around, weren't you?
Yeah. And Luis used to do sound sometimes in the Roisin Dove. So he was doing sound one night, and he said to me afterwards, "You're shouting on your." I used to do a song by Skunk Anansie, and it was called "Weak as I Am." And he said,
I know it. Yeah.
And at the end you go, "Weak as I am."
Yeah. You really give it Willie.
Yeah. I'd be nearly dead after doing the note. So he said, "You're shouting on that note." And I said, I was kind of going, who do you think you are, Nick? But he said, "You should go for some singing lessons." So he said to me, "You should go to Andreas, who Andreas Martorell from South America, from Uruguay, had just arrived in Galway at the time." So I went to him for a singing lesson, and I suppose it was then that I I never looked on my voice really, even as an instrument. I never thought about it. I just sang and put, didn't look after it. I smoked and I drank, and that was it. And I just considered this is what I do. But I suppose I realised that there was so much more. I always considered if you got your voice trained, you would be a classical singer or something. So I just realised there was more to my voice than I really understood. And he was going off to a workshop in I think it was in Poland, in Warsaw at the time. No, in Krakow. So I said, he said, "You should train as a singing teacher." And I had just gone, I was just had gone back to university. I had gone, I was still working. It was part-time. I was gone to NUI. And I just was doing a diploma and in Spanish, actually, and history. But I was going to go on to do a degree. But when I went to the workshop anyway, I said, "Yeah, do you know what? This is kind of what I want to do." So that was it. So I trained as a singing teacher then and gave up my hairdressing a while after that, or my barbershop, and gave up college as well. So maybe I'd have ended up in Spain now and be fluent in Spanish, which I'm...
Maybe you're... Do you speak some Spanish now still? Or?
Well, puedo hablar muy un poquito.
Muy bien.
Tengo que practicar más.
Sí, es genial.
Yeah, but that was it then.
When you were going out with Luis, did you always speak in English or did you speak in Spanish?
Always in English, except when I'd go back maybe to his home place. He would like his brother or his mother, none of them spoke English, so it was just you just realize how hard it is, because I'd be there dying to join in the conversation, but you don't have the lingo. Because
he more or less stayed in Galway, didn't he? From once he came here,
he was there. He was in Galway 13 years. 13 years or so. So he introduced me to singing, and that was it. So that's how I ended up getting into singing teaching, so we went out together for, I suppose, maybe, I don't know, maybe 4 years or whatever. And then he got ill. He got a thing called amyloidosis, which also came with cancer as well. So it was a harsh one. So he went back to Spain then for a year and had a lot of his treatment there. And he was given 2 years and he got about 4, and that was it.
It was very sad because I remember at the time, I think I was Donald Kearns, who had played in Charis as well. I was doing some gigs with Donald, and actually my band Collective Whisper, when we started out, Donald was drumming with us for a while. So I remember always hearing, like I'd say, "Oh, how's Luis?" And Donald would say, "Oh, he's pretty sick at the moment," or so you would hear it around how he was. And I think I met Luis one day in town, and he looked very sick, and I said, "Hi, Luis, how are you?" And stuff. But I think it was a hard time, and it affected a lot of the musicians he played with too, because I suppose everyone always hoped he would get better,
Yeah, it did, and I suppose, as I say, we had gone out together, and then we broke up, and he had actually met somebody else, and she was very young, but he just started getting sick around that time. So we were bad friends for a little while as well. But then, we had everyone got together, and we had some benefit. We had benefit concerts for him, and I have to say probably that when you're in love with somebody, and maybe you break up, I suppose when we became I suppose realigned in a different relationship, because he was one of my best friends, and I probably 2 years or maybe a year after he came back from Spain, that was it. He worked on all the broken-hearted songs that I wrote about him. That
Yeah.
he ended up working on them, and he used to be funny. He'd go like, "I don't want to know. Don't be writing songs about me." I'd be going, "Yeah, you and your bloody dreams."
That's like, when they say Taylor Swift is writing about all her exes,
Yeah.
but usually the exes aren't playing in the band with her.
Yeah, exactly. But he'd say, I'm not listening to the lyrics. But that was it. So he worked on a lot of my original songs with me. And before he passed away, actually, it was funny. I hadn't seen him in about probably about a week or so, and we had a Skype call the night before he died, and he said, "Oh, I haven't seen you," because I'd always be in every weekend, and we'd go off to, we go out town and do something, and anyway, he said, so I said, "I'll definitely be in the weekend," and it's gas that there was something different on our goodbye. He just gave me this look, and all I can say was just like a look. I really love you, and I just remember coming off after the Skype saying there was just some connection, that there's something. It was an unspoken thing, but that was it. His brother Carlos rang me on the next day and said he'd got a heart attack that evening, and you know what? That's it. I never saw him after that. I went into the hospital. But you know what? I didn't. I went in to go, and I went out to Saltail instead. And I said, you know what? I'm because he was in a coma, and he couldn't speak and all of that. So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna walk the prom here, and because he lived in Saltail, and Saltail always reminds me of him. So so that was it. So I said my goodbyes there. They were turning off the machine. Well, that was a week later now or so, but that was it. And because that was it, he was gone.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? He left such a big impression on everybody. Even if you only met him for a short time or you worked with him for a long time, he left such a lasting impression. And I think now he'll always be forever etched in Galway history of musicians, because everybody knew him, and he was such a lovely guy. I mean, he was one of these guys. He said you'd always meet him and he'd be smiling, So I always thought he was a great guy, and it was a shame. I mean, but I suppose life is life, and we have to move on. And as long as we can still remember him and think of all those good times, no?
Ah, absolutely. He was a cheeky fecker. So everyone always remembers him for that. And yeah, definitely well remembered in Galway. And that's it. This was his time. This was the amount of time he had on this earth, so he's gone off to other pastures.
Yes, of course. So let's move on, because we can sometimes with those kind of things they're sad to think about too, But let's go back to your teaching. So obviously you got more into the teaching, and you trained as a vocal teacher in 2006, and so you kind of worked with some interesting people, haven't you?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So that's it. So as I say, that's how I started on my singing teaching journey. And that was it. So I got to work with some great, went off to do workshops with all these, like Wendy Parr, who worked in Slumdog Millionaire, and Greg Enrique and all those. So I learned so much from them. And that was it. And then in the last few years, I've delved more into healing voice, because again, there was me learning all about the voice back years ago, and realizing it was an instrument. And then I got ill myself back in probably 2012 or so. And I just a lot of things, a lot of my body systems and whatever, everything was affected. And I realized that my voice as well was, started to give me trouble. And I had nerve damage I had Lyme infection. So, yeah. So I got nerve damage from a lot of that. So there was that. And then I guess, I don't know.
So sorry, can I go? When you said Lyme infection, you mean like Lyme disease?
Yeah, and I don't like to say disease, because disease sort of emphasizes that you have it forever and that that you're maimed. I like to sort of call it infection. Um, but and that was it, and it was a hard time because there was nobody to. It was kind of left to my own devices. Here's take your antidepressants and you'll be grand, and you were kind of going, okay, I can sit here and take these, or I can, when there's something wrong yourself, you just know. And
But that's the thing, because you hear of lots of people now that get Lyme disease or infection, whatever. And the thing is, it affects them for a long time, and sometimes it doesn't affect them for years after they get
yeah,
infected.
exactly. And I think for me, what may have happened, no, I don't know. I was in Africa about, um, 22, 23 years ago now, probably. But I think sometimes when you have things, a lot of stress and whatever in your life, it can bring on stuff. So I think it may have been dormant in my system. Now, who knows? I don't know. I'm certainly not the big outdoors type that I'm off walking in the woods all the time. Or anyway. But anyway, you get look at it. However, I think life gives you a kick up on the arse. Sometimes to change and to deal with your stuff. So I'm very grateful for, as I said, that those times were hard. I probably had grief, because Louisa passed away. I was in debt. What else? I had about 6 car breakdowns. I was sick. Yeah. Oh, we got our house got infected with black mold, and we had to dump everything that we had. And I was like, oh my God. And I used to say to the universe, come on, what else? You know what I mean? Just we should be drive over, a wall here. But
So that got you more in, like, through being ill yourself and things you'd gone through. It got you more into healing through vocal performance and vocal singing.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's how I found, it wasn't the medical system didn't work for me. That's not what it was. It was me. It was me finding the power within myself, because I think everybody has this power to heal themselves. And your sister played a big role in it as well, because I started going. Somebody told me about Sharon, and and she was great. She really put me on the path of looking at my life, and not dwelling on the brokenness. But that was it. But it's and all those things from your past, all the traumas and the abuses and everything that were there. You have to get over them, and it's not as simple as saying I'm going to get over it. You have to release it, and that was it. So I started. It was a journey. It was a healing journey, really, and luckily, voice came into play with it, because I realized that, when my voice started playing up myself, I realized that a lot of the stuck energy, and for now, from looking at people and hearing people, I can see the trauma, that's stuck in their body, and your voice represents. I mean, even if we couldn't see each other here, Simon, and I was maybe scared or something, you could tell in my voice. I could tell in your voice. Yeah, you can tell so much by the vibration of somebody's voice. And so it really is, everything that we've been through is sitting right there, and it is a healing instrument. And I have, I suppose I had to be able to do stuff to prove it to myself. I mean, I've healed myself of kidney infections, of various things, that with my voice. So
Yeah, and can I ask you then, because obviously for people that are curious about that sort of thing, when we look back at holistic therapies and Asian kind of medicine and everything, and you have like chanting and all of that stuff. Is it similar to that, or is there much different techniques nowadays?
It would be. I mean, chanting is more probably devotional. I mean, I would do chanting, and you're sustaining on one note, but mostly this is through what's called toning. So really, when I went to my first workshop, I think I was surprised. I mean, I'm somebody who'd be singing all the time. That I was surprised that okay, we did a little meditation first, and then we just made sounds. We were saying, okay, just make sounds, and we all started just like maybe just making whatever sound came into your head and closing your eyes. And I was in bits on the floor, after about 5 minutes. And I was kind of going, I'm not someone who hasn't used my voice before, but there was so much pain to come out of me, and I just started bawling, from...
Do you think as well? Here's, I suppose it's a kind of a question, I suppose, that some people will ask. This thing about hysteria. Obviously, when people get together, the emotion of being with other people who are going through something similar amplifies the whole situation. So like if somebody said to you, it's okay to cry, and maybe you said, no, I don't normally cry. But maybe if you're in a room of other people who are crying, it will propel you to cry.
Absolutely. Go to a funeral, and even if you don't know somebody and you see somebody crying, you'd start crying, of course. Yeah. But, well, I suppose what we forget about our voice really is that it is, and we forget about, because everything is energy, and science has proven, beyond doubt now, physics is telling us that there isn't any solid matter really, that there's density, but there is no solid matter. Everything is dancing energy, and everything has a vibration. So when you hit your toe, let's say, against the chair, you're going to go ow. Nobody can hit their toe and not say ow. And why do you do that? Because it's comforting. You do that to release the emotion of the pain. So you're releasing. When we laugh, you can't tell me something funny here that I don't. You have to make the sound. The sound has to express it. Same when you cry, the sound has to express it. So sound is for expressing. And when we have, like, everybody suffers some kind of trauma in their life, but for some people it's harder traumas than others. But even so, everybody has some amount of trauma. So a lot of the time we don't get to express it. I mean, you have something maybe that's like as a child, some trauma that happens, you don't have the chance to make a sound, or so it gets stuck in the body. So this is what we're doing. We're given permission to make that sound of that trauma or that pain or whatever that's stuck in the body. And this is the great thing. And here it is. You don't have to pay anything. It's just sitting right here, and all you got to do is use it.
Well, I mean, I think what's great, because for me as well, even doing these type of podcasts, they're kind of a natural form of expression, because, it's nice for people to open up and, talk about things they've done and go back in time and remember stuff that maybe they go, oh, let me think. And say, oh, actually, I have a good memory of that, or a bad memory. So I think, this being able to speak to people is a great thing, because you're expressing something, you're expressing emotions, you're expressing sad times, happy times. So I think it's better now that people are doing more talking, whether it's in a natural environment or whether it's in like in a workshop or some kind of holistic treatment. I think it's great, because like children from an early age express themselves without realizing. But if they want to be fed, they'll scream and shout because they're like, feed me, feed me. Whereas adults, we tend to close down a little.
We do. That's it. And you can see, which is kind of sad, that I did a workshop back there probably last summer now, and a lot of the younger children, you'll see the younger ones, they just sing and use their voices, and there's no inhibition. Once they get to like 8, 8 or 9, 7, 8, 9, all of a sudden they start to become aware, no, I don't sing, I don't like singing. And I was going, you don't like singing, you've got this lovely voice. Singing is for everyone. And they say, no, it's kind of not for everyone. And I go, it is for everyone, but we've been programmed a little bit to think that singing is only for special people. And yes, there are people who make a living. I'm somebody who makes a living out of my voice. But I really think you hear so many people say, I can't sing, but they don't realize that everybody can tone and make sound, and everybody should hum and sing because it's so good for you. And I think that you can really notice that in children when they're younger. They just, they're not thinking, am I in tune? Am I, how's this sound? They just make the sounds, and that's so great.
Yeah, because the thing is, if you want to sing and express yourself to make a living or to be famous or for whatever reasons, of course, you have to have a good instrument, whether it's your voice or guitar or drums, you have to be good on it. But the thing is, when what you're talking about more there, which it makes sense, is that people should be able to express themselves, whether they're a bad singer or a good singer. And I mean, it's great. It's like when people say, oh, I sing in the shower or in the car. We always used to laugh when people would say, oh, yeah, I was singing along with Eddie Vedder there, and I think I kind of sound like him. And someone says, yeah, until you turn Eddie Vedder off. So this is the thing. I mean, imagine if we didn't have that. Imagine how pent up people would be.
Yeah.
They would be like ready to explode.
Absolutely. And, when it comes to, I know a woman said to me one time, she was like, well, I don't think singing is for everyone. She considered, she went, I'd absolutely, people would fall dead if they heard my voice. And I said, yeah, when we are very conditioned, as in, yes, people who go on to use their voice and be professional singers or whatever, but it takes more than a voice to be a professional singer anyway, because and a musician, because you need more than the voice. You need a good attitude, you need
charisma, everything.
You need an ear, you need to be you need to have a good ear to hear the sound. So that's a different thing. But singing, really, I really think we should, and I'm trying to do that when I'm working in schools now, is to say to everybody, yes, do use your voice, and don't listen to when somebody says, oh, you don't cut the grade, and you're not, your voice isn't worthy of being heard. Just go, I'm making my sound and this is my sound. Or who says anyway, even when it comes to pitch, like you could say, oh, they're so out of tune. In our train, to what we hear, they're out of tune. In some other dimension, they could be perfectly in tune. So
well, when people say that's not normal, and someone goes, "What's normal?"
What's normal? Yeah.
So the thing is, we have a standard kind of pitch, and we say, "Oh yeah, that's in tune. That's in tune." But the truth is that sometimes with musicians, they can be a bit snobbish and a bit judgmental about other people, because they're thinking, well, I've worked so hard to get where I am and I'm in tune, so how dare you be out of tune? And you're thinking, well, hold on a second. I mean, everybody has the right to be out of tune if they want, and everybody has the right to express themselves. It doesn't matter. It's about your end goal. If you want to go into a room with trained musicians and for them to tell you you're bad, that's possible. But if you just want to sing and have fun, and your voice will get better. And the thing is, sometimes those people with the untrained voices and the weird sound end up being the superstars because they have something that nobody else has heard before.
Yeah, like Mrs. Miller. Do you remember Mrs. Miller? Have you? Oh,
no,
you got to listen to Mrs. Miller. Mrs. Miller was I'm not sure if I know her full background, but I think she was a woman in America back in the 60s or whatever that, had, I'm not sure if her husband died, and she had some money and she recorded an album. Now, absolutely, I don't know, you won't hear, it's just so, we used to laugh at it so much, but you know what, it was so great. Like she had so much vibrato in her voice. It was like a lot of vibrato. But when you look back and you're kind of going, here's a woman who used the money she had to record all these albums, and people bought them, I suppose, a lot of the time because it for them it was funny. But
and curiosity.
But if you look for her, it brought her so much joy because she was singing this stuff. Was she a great singer? No, but yet she made herself very happy and she got that sound out. And look at.
It's like, do you remember in the was it in the 90s in England, Eddie the Eagle? Remember the skier?
Yeah.
Remember that guy?
Yeah.
And he was so bad that people loved to watch
Yeah.
it.
Exactly. So, it's I suppose it's all about what you believe, what you believe yourself, but definitely, you know, if there's a market for everything, if somebody's willing to buy or to listen to it, great. But definitely, everyone should make sounds anyway. That's all I want to get across to everybody.
So let's look at your songwriting, because you've had a great career now with songwriting, and you told us earlier there about your Live at 3 debut, but now you've gone on to obviously enter other competitions. Tell us about some of the competitions. You mentioned the one, the Flesh and Blood one, and tell us about more about that.
What did I do? I done the international songwriting competition. That was probably the best one so far. That came second in the jazz category. One of my songs called Lover. And first was Gregory Porter, who was one of my favorite jazz singers. So, yeah, so it was great. And I was hoping, it was kind of around the time I think I wasn't feeling too well. But I do remember sending an email to his manager or producer, manager, yeah, because he was coming to Cork, and I was saying, well, I came second in the jazz category. It'd be nice to get a support slot, when he came to Cork. But I never heard back, and it wasn't meant to be. But yeah, what else? I won another one. I can't remember the name of it now. We Are Listening or something back in 2009 with another song. And of course, I worked with. Did you know Eugene Kelly? Yeah, Eugene worked in a lot of my songs, so a lot of him flows through Lover especially, and the other one maybe, and well, I wrote some songs for Magda Navarrete, who's a Polish singer. She was signed with Warner for a while, and actually one of the songs I think might have been. I remember she said one of the songs I had put on the album was going to be in the Eurovision National Song Contest in Poland. So I was kind of fingers crossed for that one. But anyway, it didn't happen. She didn't get through. But what else? I won the Allingham Song Contest in 2018, and that's it that I can think of to date now.
Well, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of things.
Yeah, and then the ones that we did now, and I need to get off my bum a little bit and put some work into some more that I have, and get them going.
When you look back, when did you actually write your first song? Were you a teenager or was it later in life?
I was about 16 or 17. Yeah, that was I think the first time I was on Live at 3. I wrote one that time. So yeah, I think I was that age. But I'd be always writing little bits and pieces from when I was younger. I wrote poems and stuff like that. But
has your songwriting changed over the years? How you do it and the type of songs?
I think it might only change in maybe they're not as sad anymore. Maybe. I think they'd be more hopeful. And it's funny, I don't know if you noticed this, even just listen to Year's song, Simon, as well, that if there is one thing I've noticed about all the new music coming out is like, I mean, if you look back to the 80s, 70s, 80s, it was like, cocaine and jelly roll and...
depression and everything.
Like sex, drugs, and rock and roll was definitely in the music. Whereas, and I'm sure there is elements now, but in most of the stuff, I'm often listening and saying, "Oh my God, it's about hope, and it's about new world, and it's about change, and it's about care, and it's about being free to be who you are." And I was broken, but now here I am. It's all of them sort of vibes.
I think for the last few years, a lot of the pop songs in the charts were very contradictory because, for example, you have Ed Sheeran singing about someone being beautiful and I love you and you're amazing. But then on the other side, you have singing about, boats and holes. And it's crazy because you hear Ed Sheeran singing you're beautiful or James Blunt singing you're beautiful and Ed Sheeran singing you're you're perfect. And then you hear Rihanna coming on and they're singing about, yeah, goddamn pussy and everything. And you're kind of like, the music's really weird now because there's songs that are very, very politically correct and they're like praising women and sinners. But then at the same time, there's female singers who are singing songs that are very derogatory towards women.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, but I think that is, I'm noticing in the last year, in the last few months, there's a lot of changes. But yeah, and you know what did I watch the other night? I watched something on Netflix the other night. I can't remember the name actually, but it was about that journalist in America who she kind of took on Trump. She worked for Fox News, but it literally was the story of Fox News and the abuse of women, really. Yeah, that was going on. And I couldn't believe that this was back in 2016, actually, that women were still lifting up their skirts for the boss. You know, I'm kind of going, and they were in the office kind of going, supporting him. Then there was the few women that stood up and came out. And I was kind of, I have to say, shocked that there were still women who felt they had, you know, I could well believe we were definitely brainwashed back in when we were younger to take stuff that wouldn't be taken now. You know, I often say to Rihanna about stuff that happened and she'd be going, oh my God, would you not have slapped them across the face? And I'd be going, you wouldn't, you'd get a lift home from somewhere and it'd be like, oh my God, I got to go home with this. You get a lift home from the nightclub and you got to go, gotta go with this guy. He's gonna, you know, he's gonna, and you'd be asking your friend, can you come home? Can we get out? Can you stay at my house? Because you'd be so under pressure to not hop out. Yeah, do stuff. Yeah, I suppose the best. But whereas now my daughter would say, would you not just give them a slap across the face and tell them to go fuck themselves, or, you know, sorry, can I use bad language on this?
Yeah, of course you can, as much as you like, you know. The thing is, I think that I think what's great now, like for me, when I look at it, I think it's great. There's so much like female empowerment in music and everything. But I think, like, I see it especially here in Spain, you have the reggaeton, okay? And what I always say to people, you go into a bar here and they're playing the reggaeton, and the music, like if you listen to the lyrics, they're very derogatory and very sexist. But the thing is, most of the people, including the girls, are not listening to the lyrics. They're listening to the groove in the club, right? Because if you took some of those songs and turned it into like a folk or singer-songwriter type song and said, oh, lift your skirt for me, baby, and you're singing it, I imagine singing it in a bar and people are like, what the hell are you singing about? And you say, oh no, I'm doing an acoustic version of a reggaeton song. They'll be like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You can't sing that stuff. But it's acceptable in some types of music if the groove is different. Do you understand?
Yeah, of course.
And so it's very confusing sometimes because people look at the lyrics and they're like, wow, that's pretty racy. And like the other day I saw, you know, the Pogues Fairy Tale of New York. So the BBC, they banned that. No, they didn't ban it. They changed the dirty faggot bit to dirty and haggard, or they changed the lyrics, right? And then somebody put up a funny post because it said, and in other news, the BBC have banned the Pogues for, you know, a song that's not politically correct. So in the meantime, here's a song by Cardi B talking about her vagina.
Yeah. I know, it's nuts. But as you say, those lyrics, but the only thing when it comes, of course, to our sound and to our words and how powerful they are, you know, those do, it's like, you know, if you're playing this, if something is subliminally programming you a little bit in the background, you may not think, you know, if you're maybe a kid at night and you put on that music and you're going off to sleep, nevertheless, those words, whether you're aware or not, are going into your head and feeding your subconscious. So I think, and definitely when there's rhythm really drives something into your brain.
It's a loop.
You know?
It's a loop, isn't it?
It's a loop, yeah. So it definitely goes into your brain quicker. So I think they can be slightly damaging, not wanting to sound like someone from years ago saying that music is evil. But, you know, but definitely I think that we should be trying to have, you know, there'll always be that element out there. But hopefully I do think that a lot of the songs are sounding hopeful and new world and good and all that sort of thing. So
more positive, more
more
positive.
positive, yeah.
I think that the shame now for songwriters of any style nowadays is, like when you look at Instagram and TikTok, they're all great, but the problem is now, they're saying, oh, you have to have the hook in the first 30 seconds of the song, or if you don't have it early, people will tune out quickly. And this is a shame because, the thing is, the song might build to a really good chorus or whatever, and you might have a bit in the beginning with some nice singing, but if it doesn't have the hook now, people aren't interested as easily, and that's the shame. That's the shame about it, isn't it?
Absolutely. And in songwriting, and you probably know this as well, in songwriting workshops, when I give them, I kind of go like to kids, there is no rule. There is no rule.
No.
And that's the thing to remember, because people will say, oh, you need to have a verse and, and a pre-chorus and a chorus and, maybe a bridge or whatever. But at the end of the day, I never, when I sat down to write a song, or when I did, I never said, oh God, I'm going to have a verse there now. I just wrote.
Yeah.
I didn't think about, what punchline. Okay, as it went on, you'd be thinking of better things to do or coming up with ideas. But I think that can definitely, if you're trying to write to structure, maybe it works for produced music, maybe, or hip-hoppy music, maybe. But I think definitely the way I write, I don't like rules. There's no, everyone is different and has a different way to express what they want to say. So say it whatever way you want to say,
For you, when you go to write a song, does it come from a melody in your head, or are you do you find, oh, I'm washing the dishes and I'll get a tune, or where does it normally come to you?
It would usually be night time now, I have to say, or sometimes when I'm driving, I might just hear maybe a bass line or something. I'm going, oh God, that bass line is great, or and then maybe I might have had a melody. Maybe it's usually melody that comes, and then a line will come, or a word. And I have a little notebook, and I tend to write down sometimes lines or things that might come to me, or something that might move me. And it might be just, I don't know, you could just see something really sad or something happy or whatever, and I write it down. But it's funny that's why I think songwriting is so amazing, that when you look back over the song, I can look back to songs that I wrote years ago, and they actually foretold my future. And I
Right.
and I didn't know it. But yet I knew it. That I wrote, that I could look back at that first. Oh my God, it was telling me about that was going to happen, and then the chorus. And I was kind of, but I had no idea at the time. But it's gas that some part of you, because I mean, is it ourselves that write, or is it our higher selves, or whatever? Is it
is it memories coming out? Because sometimes you can write a song and someone will say, "What's that about?" And you go, "Is that about you, or is that about a personal experience?" And you go, "No, but it's talking like third person looking on or something." But then you could look at it later in life and go, "Actually, maybe it was about me."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think sometimes you probably have to take the ego out of it, because I really think when stuff flows through you, for anybody who writes music or writes a book or whatever, I mean, we're really tapping into something else, and I really think that everybody has that capacity, and not everybody maybe gets aligned all the time to do it. But I really think it's quite spiritual in some ways, even if you weren't anybody who believed in that. But there is
And so it was like lately I was thinking about this. There was one or two nights I was going to bed, and I'd be very tired anyway, and I'd be just about to go to sleep, and next minute this melody would come into my head,
same.
right? And I'd be like, oh, do I get up now? And do I get up now and do this? Or if I do, I'll never go to bed.
Yeah.
And a few nights, I think I got up one or two nights, but a few nights I've gone, no, I'll remember it in the morning, and then you don't want to.
Gone. Yeah. And you're kind of thinking all the babies, all the songs that could have been, all the big hits. And you're going, this would be a big one. This would definitely be a good one,
It's like, if I wasn't such a lazy bastard, that would have been a great hit. But the thing about it is, it's it can come to you. But what I notice now, actually, lately, I've kind of changed my style in the sense that now, like one time I would write a song and I'd finish it, and that'd be the song. But now when I look back at all these old demos and stuff that I have, and I've loads of them, and then I go, oh, actually, that song now, looking back a few years later, has a different feel or whatever. So I find that nice now to go back, because, you could write a new song now, but it's kind of, now I'm like thinking, it's kind of like a fine wine. Maybe let it sit there for a bit and then it will evolve into something different.
Yeah, absolutely. That's happened to me, that going back to a lot of the songs that I wrote, and I only found a CD the other day actually, that Luis had done some bass, and I had lost that thing and the tubas. I just done guitar and he'd done bass. But it's funny that I was so mad to get them out at the time, and then it didn't happen. Life happened and stuff, and I couldn't even look at the songs for a while after he passed away, because I went, well, we had the band and everything, and it just, I kind of left them there. But you know what? Now that I go back to them, it actually is that they needed that time. It's like now I can see things that I do with them that I didn't see at all at the time, and I was saying, oh, that was much too fast, or that that needed a different groove. So I definitely think that sometimes things, they just need to sit, and you just go with it. When they need to sit, they need to sit.
And they can, like sometimes you'll hear a song's been written in 10 minutes, and then others can take years because the artist maybe didn't know how to finish it, or, there was a verse in there that maybe didn't need to be in there. So, I mean, sometimes you need to look at it from a different perspective. Maybe if you had finished it a year ago, your head wasn't in the right space, but now you go, oh, now I think I know what to do with it. So for sure, I think, listen, let's, you're going to play a song for us.
Well, let's see how this goes now, because I probably haven't played so much since the.
Don't worry. It's all easy here. Nothing too stressful.
Can I play the guitar still? Oh, yes. I'm going to do this old song, which is it's one called the Tallahatchie Bridge.
Very nice song. Very nice song.
Okay, sure. I'll give this a lash and see. It was the 3rd of June, another sleepy, delty, dusty day. I was out chopping cotton and my brother was baling hay. And at supper time we stopped and went back to the house to eat. And Mama hollered out the back door, "Y'all remember to wipe your feet." And then she said she got the news today from Chalktown Ridge. She said Billy Joe McAllister jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge. And Papa said to Mama as he passed around the black-eyed peas, Billy Joe never had a lick of sense. Pass the biscuits, please. There's 12 more acres in the lower half that's yet to plow, yeah. But Mama said it was a shame about Billy Joe anyhow. It seems like nothing ever comes to no good up on Chalktown Ridge. And now you tell me Billy Joe was jumped off Tallahatchie Bridge. Well, a year has come and gone since we heard the news about Billy Joe. And Brother Mary Becky Thompson, and they bought a story to blow. There was a virus going round Papa caught him and he died last spring. Now Mama doesn't seem to want to do much of anything. And me, I spend a lot of time picking flowers up on Chalktown Ridge and throw them in the muddy waters of the Tallahatchie Bridge. Tallahatchie Bridge, yeah. The Tallahatchie Bridge.
Woo!
That was the short version. I think there's about 20 verses.
Very nice. Your voice, it sounds great. Your voice sounds amazing. Really good.
Well, it's a bit rusty now, I feel. Do you know when you haven't gone from maybe 3 gigs a week to no gig?
Of course. Well,
Anyway.
all the musicians around the world are kind of losing their sharpness, and I need a couple of weeks to get back into it. And of course,
Yeah.
But that's really nice, and it's a great song. That's a great song.
Yeah, it is a great song, isn't it?
Even
Absolutely.
and all of those songs are foretelling the future with the virus and everything.
Yeah, isn't it? The virus and all. They were still dying with viruses those days.
Yeah, brilliant. So really good. That's really good. So let's move on, Martina. I'm not going to keep you for too much longer, but let's talk about the community radio, Loughrea Community Radio, and how you started getting into that and presenting there. How did that happen?
So I heard news about it kind of going around the town, and I had gone to a good few meetings when a lady called Denise Christie started it off, and she had the idea to start a community radio. So that's it. Kind of went to a few of the meetings, and then over lockdown, well, we had a lovely benefit night. Actually, myself and Karma Dempsey organised one back in February, and we had loads of great music back in the Village Theatre. We had like Frankie Coulhan and who else came? Rick Harris, the wonderful Rick Harris.
Yeah,
as well.
Rick is great.
Enda Dempsey. A host of people, and we got some money together, and the idea was, we're gonna buy some equipment and get our premises. But then lockdown came, and it didn't happen. So what we're doing now is like podcasts, really, most of it. Sometimes mine are recorded. Some of them are going live. But that's it. And it can be annoying sometimes because you're just you're taking over from one DJ and you're switching to your internet. And then an internet could go down and you could be, just doing your introduction and your internet could be crap or something, and all of a sudden your automatic DJ comes in. There was one day mine was just every 5 minutes it just started cutting out. It was a really stormy day, but yeah, so that's where we're at. So we can't wait to get to get our license and just our premises, which we have now, and just get into it. So hopefully that'll be.
So as a radio station, the way it's operating at the moment, more of the people are at home and doing their podcast type things. But how is it going to fund itself in the future? Will it become like, will you have to have advertising, or will you try and have people donating, or how will that work?
Well, that's it. That's what we've done now. A lot of shows are sponsored. So you look for sponsorship. And then a lot of us that work within the radio have done things, either put on concerts or, some people will say, like me and Carmel, we're musicians. Philip Joyce is a musician. Dave Gardner is a musician. Sarah Fahy and Rose Fahy and Daniel Cronin, they're all in the more, they're in the musical society. So they've films and or plays and theatre and all that sort of thing. So, so all the people that are involved are trying out different things as well, to make some funds for it. So look at
that's great.
That and advertising, and so
it's great because I was talking to somebody the other day as well. There's that other radio station, that Freedom Gold, and I think they're doing something similar, but it's more, I think the DJs are doing it from their house as well. And I don't know how many DJs there are, but I think it's great because, the problem can be even with local radio. Sometimes it's very hard for acts to get their music played on, even like the likes of Galway Bay FM and Midwest Radio in Claremorris. And I mean, it's harder because these stations are under pressure from advertisers, and they want to play all the big hits.
Exactly. Now, Radio 1 RTÉ 1 is probably the only station I ever listen to. I mean, Fiachna is great. He plays lots of Irish music. But so that's what I wanted to do first. I had like 2 ideas for shows. One was something to do with health and that, and then Denise is running the health one. So I said that or original music. I really think it needs, because sometimes I'm hearing, music from, local bands, we say like yourselves, and,
Yeah,
Danny Darcy is great original songs. And you hear all these people and you're kind of going, why aren't I hearing that on the radio? Because these, you can't believe, and this is what's blown me away sometimes, is some of the local artists and the songs, the music. It's top notch, absolutely top notch.
yeah,
So yeah, and it's great that I can do a show for an hour and have everybody from Galway nearly.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I done three of my shows there in summer, which was the whole hour was just people from around Galway. And to think that there's that much talent, and there probably is if I could even do it all the time, but mostly I try at least every week to feature at least 3 or 4 from Galway or from local Loughrea or whatever, Kinvara, Gort, whatever. And then maybe the rest, throw in a well-known older song, and then new artists around Ireland. But that's it. So I think it's great to hear that.
yeah. No, I think it's brilliant. I think it's a great initiative because, unfortunately, you know, radio stations nowadays are gone so commercial that even now, I won't mention any names, but one or two radio stations I know, when we were releasing our single, and I contacted them about putting on, I said, I'm a Galway artist and putting on original music. And I was kind of told, well, that original show is not really happening now because of COVID. And you're kind of thinking, is that really an excuse? I mean, come on. I know radio stations might be suffering too, and their funding and advertising slots might be different. But I mean, you can't just say, okay, well, let's get rid of the Irish music first. Let's get rid of the new original music and just play all the hits. I mean, it's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you know what? All the radio stations are owned by millionaires now. So this is the thing about it, and this is what the capitalism that sort of is. I really dislike that everything in our world is becoming owned by, like, if you take News Talk and a lot of our, we won't go into the names, but we know who owns them. So like they control, and I don't think that's the way it should be. But yeah, I think we need to start moving away, and get everything more to community based and whatever. We don't want if we're going to have our newspapers and our radio stations, and even we can go that to universities, our education, our health, all owned by these wealthy philanthropists who, if you donate enough money to something, you have a big input into how it runs. Do you know what I mean? And our media is very important, what we hear. So if somebody you have, as I say, all these wealthy people controlling what we hear and what we listen to. So I have big issues with that, and I think we all should have. I think because there's enough people in our community. There's enough people in our communities, who have finances, and we've enough businesses that we all get together and we fund all our fund all of these things ourselves. We don't need people.
Yeah, especially with artistic stuff. It's a shame when something, has a soul, and then all of a sudden the soul is gone because some commercial entity comes in and wants to invest in it. Because, the problem is with big business, they see these unique kind of alternative things in society that they say, oh, everybody loves that now. We have to buy it. And the thing is, they don't have to buy it, but unfortunately, human nature is in such a way that people go, oh yeah, I've been struggling for years with this show or whatever, with this band or film. I could do with a bit of funding, but they have to give up all the rights, and then it becomes just another business entity.
Yeah, and that's it. Now, the one thing I have noticed about original music is there are a lot of new artists coming out now have their own labels. They're producing their albums themselves, and they're managing themselves, and they're doing a lot of stuff themselves, and they're setting up their own labels, which is really good. You know what I mean? That hopefully in another few years, all these guys who've been calling the shots for years, it won't be that way anymore. It's slow. All these things are slow, and we have to see them. Sometimes you have to see what's wrong to change.
Well, I think basically what record companies now are marketing companies. They have the money to put into marketing, So if an artist says, "Oh my God, it costs so much to advertise and to market my act or my band or whatever," the likes of those record companies are like, "Yeah, well, we can do all of that, and but you have to give us 60%." And the artist is going, "Well, 40% of something is better than 100% of nothing."
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. So I suppose the thing is, don't sell out. If yeah, hold on, and that's it. And I suppose we should. Music isn't about people are very, maybe it's from a lot of the reality shows that were like, and I'm not down in them because they've give people opportunities, the X Factors and all those, but you know is it really about fame? I mean, definitely for me, and I know lots of other people I know. I mean, I sing because it makes me feel good. I do music because it makes me feel good. If somebody likes what I do, great. And if it makes me a bit of money, great. But I don't. It's not about being famous, and maybe when you're younger, those things are very important. But it's about doing stuff that you like, and if it brings somebody else joy, great. Um,
Yeah,
that's what it's about.
and I think fame is totally overrated because you can be famous nowadays and not make any
Yeah,
money, and in within 6 weeks you can be gone. Nobody knows who you are. So I think you have to just work towards being happy with your music or whatever industry you're in. And you also have to be happy, but make sure that you can survive doing it and produce more. Because the worst thing, obviously, if you have to work full time, maybe you don't get as much time for your music. So it's nice to get some funding so that you can continue making things that people
yeah,
love. No,
exactly. But I think a lot of the time, if you're on the right path and if you're doing stuff that you love, those things come.
they
Yeah.
will come. They will come. So listen, we're going to finish up in a little bit, Martina. So I just going to ask you, for you, what have been some of the highlights of your life so far? What for you stands out?
Um, Opening of mind is I'm opening up. I'm just happy to be here. I was just thinking on my birthday this year, which was just 2 weeks. Was it last week? The 16th. 2 weeks ago now. And I was thinking to myself, how content, I suppose, content that I am with life. I mean, there's lots of things that I want to change in the world, but when it comes to where I'm at and how I am in my skin, kind of thing, I suppose I can finally say, you're not too bad, Martina. You're not. I have, yeah, you're all right. And not be so critical of myself. So, to love myself, it takes bloody years to love yourself. God damn it. And you're kind of going, how much?
It takes years to find out who you are, but another few years to love
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly. To find out who you are and to love yourself and all these sort of things. So I think there's great contentment when you reach that place, and that's it. So I'm just happy to for all the things that have good and bad that have happened in my life that have brought me to here today, and I'm grateful and thankful for every one of them and everybody that I have come into contact with, and that's it. And looking forward to whatever else life is going to bring my way.
Last question for you. What's your hopes for the future? I mean, I could ask you what's your ambitions, but I think you've achieved a lot already. So what's your hopes? That's a better
Yeah,
question.
exactly. Well, my ambition is just to be happy, and yes, I do have. I'd like to bring voice. I'd like to bring healing voice to everybody, and just for there, I'm to make them happy and healthy, and hope for the future. I would hope, as I mentioned, a lot of the things that I think are wrong, or I suppose should I say, are out of alignment in our society at the minute. I think people I do think we're moving in a good direction, though I think there's a lot of crap to go through for the next while. But I think we have to see it to experience it, and know what we don't want. Sometimes you don't know what you want until you see what you don't want. And that's it. So my hope for the future is that, yeah, we become better people, healthier people, that we have a better attitude towards our health, and not dictated to by pharmaceutical companies, and to have freedom to be who you are. Yeah, and that's all I think. That's what the least thing you deserve in this human experience is to have freedom to be who you are, whatever you are, and whether that's good or bad. I think you just have to sit. There is no good or bad anyway, or no right or wrong. Everybody is at their place, and we're all just having this human experience.
Is there anything you'd like to plug while you're here, to tell the people about?
Yes, to plug. Well, myself and my songbird partner, there's another girl I play with called Alison Slattery, and we're called the Songbirds. So we decided just there the other day that we would release a song, and we would give the profits to a centre in Galway that her friend works in. So we're working on that now in the next few days. So yeah, look, if somebody can download the song and it makes a few pound for them, great. So that'll be out in the next week or two. So that's one thing. Secondly, yes, I'm working on my Healing Voice course, and hopefully I'll have that finished by January. I don't think it'll be Christmas. And yeah, it's not going to be expensive. So something that everybody can do in the privacy of their own home themselves. And also retreats. I was supposed to have my first retreat in Spain this September, but yeah, so I'll be bringing people back to this lovely, gorgeous retreat centre in Mijas, and yeah, so that'll be happening hopefully next year. And is there anything else I'm trying to think of now? Yeah, maybe give my transformation through sound and voice. Maybe if anybody's listening and wants to check that out and give it a like, it'd be great.
Brilliant. I'm going to post all the links for your music as well, and all those relevant links for your transformation through voice and the retreats and everything you give me. I will be posting it on the post.
Sam, yours good. Thank you.
Well, Martina, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed our chat, and I want to say thank you for all the good you're doing, and thank you for your artistic abilities and your skills, and for passing it on to the next generation. But also thanks for promoting, Irish acts and Irish music and giving people and bands a chance. I think it's brilliant. And I mean, your show is fantastic and I love listening to it. And I think, if you can be the cog in the wheel that pushes more Irish music out there, I think it's wonderful. So I want to say thank you, and thank you very much for being on the show.
Simon, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our chat, and might check you out sometime. Are you do you come home much?
Well, the last time I was home, I think was last February. So hoping to get home maybe at Easter again. So, would love to come home for Christmas now, but unfortunately the way things are, it's not so easy, and spend more time in quarantine than I would at home. So this is the thing. So Easter again, hopefully. So yeah, we can meet up for a drink and say hi and meet in person properly,
Super.
It's been great, Martina. And, enjoy the rest of the week and the day and so on. And we look forward to speaking to you on the next show. Okay, thanks very much.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Thank you, Martina. That was Martina Flaherty, and I really enjoyed that conversation. I hope you did too. And a lovely song by Martina as well. And let's talk about next week's show, because it's going to be really interesting. Because next week we have paranormal investigators. So we speak to Mr. Richard Morrison. He's from Galway, and Richard is a member of the Paranormal Supernatural Investigations Ireland team, and he tells us all about their research and investigations around Galway and Connacht and Ireland. So very interesting, and we're going to learn some things there and see what shakes the night. Okay, I want to also talk about our Christmas Galway Simon extravaganza. So basically, for this Christmas, on Christmas Day, we're going to hold a podcast special. And in that podcast special, we're going to have some amazing guests. We're going to have Michelle Lally. We're going to have Leo Moran and Porrick Stevens. We're going to have the Half Landing from Tuam. We're going to have Martina Flaherty from Loughrea. We're going to have Dave Clancy from Currafin. Who else? We have so many more artists coming on. It's going to be really exciting. We have a full list and lineup on the podcast info, so you can check our website for more details. But it's going to be a really good show, and you can have a listen to it on Christmas Day when you're after your dinner, and hopefully you've had a great day and you can enjoy the podcast with your family and listen to some lovely tunes, some Christmas songs and some original songs. So it's going to be really interesting, and we hope you come along to join us, because it's all in benefit of the Galway Simon community. The Galway Simon community does a great job in Galway and around the Galway area of helping people in homeless situations and people who are about to become homeless. So we hope to raise even a small bit of money to help these people out, but more to raise awareness and to let everybody know what exactly is happening, because at Christmas time, it's a very hard time for a lot of people. And now at the moment with this current crisis with COVID, there are probably going to be more people homeless or on the verge of being homeless at Christmas. So we want to try and do our bit, and all these Galway artists have volunteered their free time, and we want to thank them for doing so, and we hope you're really going to enjoy the show. So tune into that on the 25th of December, and we'll give you more details in the next few weeks about that, and we'll have some spot prizes as well and some things you can win from some companies and businesses who are going to sponsor those spot prizes. So you can win those in the weeks ahead, and we will be announcing all the winners on the day of the podcast on the 25th of December. So that's the Collective Whisper Galway Simon Community Christmas Special Podcast. Very long name, but I think you know what it means. So we hope you're going to join us for that, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.